Lots to share with you in the business report today regarding current perspectives on employment. Resource courtesy of the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, whose evidence-based capacity to capture insight into any caprice contained across a variety of challenges to potential productive outputs, including an array of adjacent studies in its archives, or more recently presented in its study titled Outside In: Increasing Participation in the Labour Force. Dr. Kellyanne Dixon-Hamill, UWI lecturer and lead researcher for the project, provided a synopsis of the results that indicate over 400,000 Jamaicans are currently outside the labour force, the majority of which are women.
So who are these 411,000 persons? What are they doing? Well, we have half of them who have said, we don't need work. We're not interested in work. That's going to be a difficult set to bring into the labour force.
The report finds that a further 23% are in school, 6% are retired, while another 7% are incapable.
And there's another group, 4%. 4% of persons who want to work but cannot do so because of care responsibilities,
such as taking care of children, the elderly, or the unwell. But though that percentage represents 15,000 people, or just 1% of the overall labour force, Dr. Dixon-Hamill points out that if that number were included, GDP could be elevated by up to 2%.
CAPRI has done extensive research on the care economy, and our recommendation comes from there. The state should subsidize the cost of care by issuing vouchers to working and job-seeking parents for use at registered and regulated daycare and nursing care facilities.
Executive Director CAPRI, Dr. Damien King, invited today's BR audience's additional attention by couching the curiosities of the HEART NSTA-funded exploration in these terms.
We are close to what economists call full employment, which is you have as many people working as you're ever going to get. And the implications of this were brought out in a report that CAPRI published in March of last year called Growthless Jobs. And it shows how this labor market situation really undermines many of the assumptions that guided macroeconomic policy, and how we need a new way of thinking about macroeconomic policy, and in particular, how we stimulate economic growth.
Despite the conclusion of the CAPRI report that few of the factors influencing the phenomenon are possible of remediation through policy intervention, the conundrum presented Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister, responsible for information skills and digital transformation, with an opportunity to resume a possibly more difficult option that may have been written off in the past.
I'm very happy that we have this study today, because it helps us to think about how we get more people into the labour force, but it's not anecdotal. When I go around communities across Jamaica, I invariably see a lot of people on the corner, and they're invariably men who are, even though Jamaica has done fantastic in terms of our unemployment rate, we still see them in every community that we go into. We see these young men especially. And so it's important that we figure out how we can reach them. And one of the things they've said, I know they've said to me, and which we've had to look at in policy, is that they're not able to go to where the training is. They say they want to be trained, but then they say it's too expensive for them to access training. I went into one community and the men said, the Heart Center is over there, and we from this community can't walk over there. And so we can't access training. And so it's really important that we have a lot of data in relation to what is really happening in terms of those who are outside of the labor force. And I think this goes a far way in demonstrating that.
Another unadulterated data point recently corroborated by Mr. Craig Peru from the Mona School of Business, that the average resident Jamaican is 30 years of age, might also encourage a more general consideration of what Jamaica's maturation may mean for those who have themselves been traditionally excluded from an economy that cares.
Some of us on the platform who will not be named and are male, would have taken the view that the failing of the educational system to properly educate and skill a whole cohort is not something that you can sort of change in a meaningful way in the short run. And what I'm getting from both of you is that that is not quite right.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crosskill.